Welcome to a World of Dragon podcast, a podcast where a dragon and his rider get together to discover, review, and discuss dragon-centric media and literature, including but not limited to books, movies, shows, and games, to help you dragon fans find the next World of Dragons you wish to visit. This is part 2 of a advanced reader copy episode. The book in question, The Scales of Fate, The Scarred Prince by Shaiden Barnes? Fuck, titles, names. Yeah, Shaiden Barnes. Has been out for a week now. Last week we uploaded our spoiler-free, 99% spoiler-free review. And we're doing the discussion part now. To be respectful to the author and not immediately spoiling his book the day it comes out, I just decided to do this episode into 2 halves. I'm sorry you had to wait a week. I know it was agony, but here we go. Discussion time.
All right. So I took notes for this one.
Yeah, the notes are all in my head.
Yeah. The first thing I want to mention is something that we very, very briefly touched on in the last episode, which is that this book is very, very depressing. Very much kicked puppy syndrome for the main character. We talked with another author before where he's like, oh, you got to really beat on your main character to show that they have growth and all this other stuff. But it's like the plot basically just beats the living shit out of Zargris constantly, and it kind of starts to feel unfair.
Yeah.
Like watching a bunch of people beat someone up and you want to step in, but you physically can't.
Yeah. If you remember from the first half of the episode where I said that it felt like he had no agency, like he's not the main character, right? In this book, there is never a time where he rises up and overcomes the challenge. It's always him getting put in his fucking place. He's always getting beat up or put down or whatever, because the hero of the story is the goddamn motherfucking princess. It's Becca in disguise. Like, he doesn't want to be the chosen prince. He is forced to be it. And then he ends up getting kidnapped, which is a very against his will thing. And you know what? The kidnapping I can probably forgive because it's still early enough in the book that it could be considered the inciting incident that gets the story going, right? But he gets kidnapped. And then, you know what? He doesn't even want to escape. He's kind of forced or / talked into escaping by the princess. Virial, in the guise of... what was her Drake's name? Alara? Alara. Yeah. So she's the one that comes to break him out. She's the one that comes to save him and help him with everything. He ends up getting his wings broken at one point, and that snaps him out of it with a, I better get out of here. I could end up dead. But you know what? She's the one that gets the map. She gets the key. She helps him escape. She gets him to climb out the chimney, which he can't even do on his own. He gets stuck. She's got to use magic to get him out. She gets him home to his family. She does everything. He has no say in any of the bullshit that happens to him. He never gets to rise up and beat someone. She saves him from Vorgrath at the very, very end. It's like he does nothing.
Yeah, the story very much moves around him. Which is kind of an analogy that we were talking about in the last episode where, it feels bad, and I see Ray's point with the whole Becca-ism, and it's like, can he do anything on his own? Can he, be quote-unquote, be a man? No.
No, the one fucking time, he's like, I don't know why, but I really want to win this time. He gets his fucking wings broken. It's like, a lesson that's teaching the male reader? Better know your fucking place. You ever try to stand up to anybody and you're gonna just get put in the fucking ground.
Yeah, he does slash his sister across the face and scar her up. And it's like the one moment he did something authoritative and decisive, and he's punished for it.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about...
No, I know you're talking about that. I'm talking about a different situation. It's the only other time in the book that, he kind of went, you know what, fuck this.
But you know what, I think the slashing his sister's face was mostly an accident. Again, because he didn't mean to, right? Nothing in this book happens because he wanted it to happen. It's all, circumstantial things happening around him. It's like, oh, I guess I'm going over here now. This is my life. And, at the very end, Okay, so I'm going to put a pin in my I hate matriarchies rant for a second, because he has a point at the end of the book where he could become king, right? He could become the first king that's in charge of everything, rather than just being a token little pawn piece to the queen, right? Because turns out all the queens are dead, and the heiress is in prison, pending trial or whatever, right? It's like
No.
he could, yeah, she,
Oh,
whatever,
oh, oh. Okay.
yeah, his sister Laura was in prison, and so she was like not eligible to become
Okay.
queen because she was currently in prison. That's why when he told Deckard,
Decca.
Deccan,
Deccan.
Deccan, when he told Deccan, go get my sister, he was surprised. Like, you would actually release her, right? The point is, he could have been king. This could have been finally at the very end of the book, last 3 chapters. He could have finally grown into an actual character. It's like, nope, I'm gonna pass it off to somebody else. I don't want it.
I disagree with your point. I liked that scene, and the reason I liked it was because he's been fighting with his sister the whole book. Like, they hated each other, or at least she hated him.
Hmm.
And toward the end of the book, when he returns home after being kidnapped, she's actually overjoyed to see him and feels really bad about her minor hand in this plot, where she just basically told the bad guys, oh yeah, he has this little cave or whatever. But she was genuinely happy to see him again, and they embraced and they hugged, and they put their differences aside and were brother and sister again. And I actually thought that was really sweet. um, and then, during the trial, because there's a trial later on, she gets fucking beaten to shit by her mother, and like thrown across the fucking room, and then told, put her in prison. And the thing is that I think it's a far worse crime to kidnap, beat, and torture a prince than it is to tell the torturers where that prince was. I believed her when she said she didn't know that they were going to kidnap him and do all this stuff. She thought they were going to scare him. I actually believe that.
She doesn't even know if she told them where he was because she
Yeah.
was like super drunk at the time.
But the
And
point is that they had reconciled, and he actually had love for his sister again. And then, she gets thrown into prison for having the audacity to maybe have told the bad guys where the prince was. And so him freeing his sister, I thought, you know what? If I were Zargras in this situation, that's the absolute first thing I would do too. Also, keep in mind, throughout the entire book, he mentioned many, many times he didn't even want to be king. He wanted to become a bureaucrat and fix up
yeah,
the
but
city.
that's adding to my thing of he doesn't want to do anything.
Well, he did
Right?
want to be a bureaucrat, but he's not allowed to.
Not allowed to. I guess going back to my pin matriarchy thing, with me just being kind of tired of it, and it's like unfortunate. It's like, Shaden, I'm very sorry. You probably like really had a great idea for a matriarchy, and it's not your fault that so many other people have done it too that I'm just sick of it at this point. And sure, part of it may come from the fact that me being a dude, I want the guys to be in charge, right? That's slightly unavoidable, but it's like what I really wanted to have happen at different parts of this book was I was expecting full on Hunger Games. Like, I got some Hunger Games vibe early on with everyone offering up their tribute, right? And there was even the risk, like, both Zargras and Raz have had the thoughts of, we might have to fight to the death in this, not tournament, in this ceremony that's coming up. That's why they keep training for combat, because they don't know what to expect. But, and so, like, full on Hunger Game vibes, right? They're all going to think they could die. And so I was like, take it all the way. Just do full Hunger Games with dragons. Let's tear down the capital. Let's revolt. Let's destroy the Celestials, which is really interesting for me to say because I consider myself a Celestial Dragon, right? Star Dragon and all that nonsense, right? So tear down the Celestials, destroy them, overthrow them, get rid of the matriarchy, and just everyone, like, let's make the world a better place in Ray's image, right? And it's like, that's what I wanted to have happen. And so, while I can appreciate the I can't think of the niceness I get of the love story that's starting to blossom between Viriel and Zargras, because he knows who she actually is, and oh my god, I have a rant for that too. I can appreciate the love story that's blossoming. and how I think, like, my new personal theory is that he is going to be the one that ends up with a Virial. Asterisk for later. Oh my god, there's so many fucking side tangents. Oh my god. This is going to be just an hour of me screaming into a microphone. Well, I can see that. I can see what he's going for, and it's its own good story. I would have felt much more vindicated with the tear this all down and build it up, right? It would have been a lot more cathartic, especially with how they were treating both Zargus and all the guys in general. Like the fucking burrows from the first book, right? All the guys are treated like garbage, and they're just forced to live underground. They barely get to see any sunlight. They gotta, like, fight for scraps of food and whatnot because you're deemed unnecessary. You're a drain of society simply because you were born male, right? And it's like, release them all, swarm the land, kill the royals, bring out the guillotines, let's go, right? Ugh.
uh, I want to let you rant, but I want to mention one thing that made this book a 10 out of 10 for me. Because I've mentioned it before, I don't like tropes. I don't like guessing what's going to happen. You know, like playing a Legend of Zelda game, you know he's going to defeat Ganon and get the Triforce and the Master Sword. It's tired. I'm tired of it.
There are certain things that have to happen in stories for the story to be a story.
No, I understand that, but I like it when a trope is flipped on its head.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment that, so by the end, I'd say probably 3/5 of the way through the book, it was kind of 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, and it was like, yeah, it's a pretty good story, you know. At the end of the book, the two queens, the good queen and the evil queen, which, by the way, I mentioned last time, I had to write a note: Sereth, good; Sarsu, bad, because their names were used so frequently back and forth that I got kind of confused as to who was who. But after they fight to the death and kill each other, a little civil war breaks out between the Dawn and the Dusk clans, and the cousin to Zargris, Vorgras, is trying to kill him. They're fighting to the death, and Zargris, being, not as big, not as strong, but more smart, he starts talking to him, and he's like, "No, you don't understand," like. And I was like, "Oh God!" And he actually talks him down, and he's like, "Let's just talk about this," and I visibly groaned. And then what happened is what is going to piss off what pissed off Ray was Alara, the Drake who is actually Virial, the Celestial Princess, who has access to magic. She pulls Vorgras off of Zargris and crushes him in midair. Using telekinetic magic of some kind, snaps every one of his bones like a twig and collapses him into a blood and gore singularity, and then he just disappears. Like, crushes him into nothingness, and he just boop out of existence. I audibly cheered. I was so fucking happy because I am so sick and tired of main characters being like, "No, let's be friends. No, let's talk through our differences. We don't have to fight. We don't have to fight." I fucking hate that shit. And it made me so happy that, not knowing the situation and not knowing that it was de-escalating, that the princess just comes in and is just like, "Be gone," and just fucking crushes him into nothingness. I was so happy. And I know Ray didn't like it because it shows that essentially the Celestials wield power just that no other dragon could possibly counter.
I've already forgotten the two different side tangents that I just had on my last rant, and I'm going on to new stuff now as you're talking, right? It's like, oh my god. Okay, so one thing really fast is I'm sick and tired of the main characters, specifically in dragon fiction. It's really unique to dragon fiction because dragons are supposed to be, in my eyes, really strong and powerful beings, right? So I'm really sick and tired of the main character dragons being not powerful, not large, not strong, but you know what they are? They're clever, or they're fast. Oh, it's so unique, it's so interesting. Ooh, it happens all the fucking time. It's like, if Shaiden was going to give us a third book from the point of view of yet another chosen prince in another kingdom, I wish and pray that dragon would have been just a mega fucking Chad, the biggest, largest, strongest. He's going to just bulldoze through every problem that comes towards him because rawr, big stomp, right? Because Raz was, small, the underdog, and he only won. Oh my god! Oh my god! He only won because he was clever, but that's not even true. He only won because Virio intervened. Again, no agency. It's all about her. Oh my god! I just realized that just now. Holy fucking shit, Becca. Um, but yeah, so like Raz was small, fast, and clever and agile. It's the only reason he even stood a chance against whatever his brother's name was. I forgot. And then, like in this one, Zargras is small, fast, agile, and clever. Like they both have the same strengths, which kind of makes a little bit of sense because there's a little tease at the end that it kind of implies that she's gonna try to go for a polycule, which I will respect Shaiden for it if he pulls that off, because polycules need to be a thing that happens more often. But the point is, I'm just sick and tired of the main character dragons just being small, agile, and clever. It's
Plucky, and lucky.
yeah, it's like, can I please just have someone who's just large and powerful and in charge?
Yeah, I would
Not in this book, because that'd be too good for a male. No, they have to be put down.
Yeah, I would love in this setting specifically, a dragon whose strengths are literally strength. He is bigger than everyone. He can slap someone into unconsciousness without even really trying. And it's like, can we have a character who has to overcome the fact that they're big and slow?
Nope.
It's always small and runty and lucky and smart.
And it's like, I kind of get why underdog stories are kind of fun, but again, it just feels like, and maybe it's my fault, I'm getting into the wrong literature, but it just feels like it's always an underdog story. And it's like, every now and then I would like a power fantasy, especially with dragons. That's partly why I loved the Dragon Sorcerer series so much. Like, I read all 4 books, and I only had Bantam read the first one because it's so fucking good. And it's like, I enjoyed the power fantasy of, you know what, Nico? You kick that guy's ass. Doesn't even break a sweat. Easy peasy. It's done. Hooray. It's like, it feels so good sometimes.
That's
But
kind of
yeah,
why I really like the All the Skills book and why I got so excited. It like Ray was like, "Wow, you're actually excited to read a book." The All the Skills series, the main character is ostensibly overpowered, but there are still hurdles that even he has to take a pause and figure out how to get. But in most situations, he can easily overcome them because he's just so fucking overpowered. And
yeah.
I kind of like that. It's refreshing.
I want to read this comment out loud from our Discord, which you too can join if you head over. We record live, and the listeners will ask questions and comments and stuff that kind of help us get on a good like discussion path or whatever. Taryn says, so instead of focusing on the runt of the litter, focus on the one that actually stands a chance of surviving. And it's like, yes, Age of Fire followed at first Auron, who was technically the champion. Right? Literally, the book is called Dragon Champion. He won the hatching fight, right? And then also Dragon Sorcerer, Nico Sandumis, was the strongest in his clutch. He was the one of 2 surviving dragons because he was the strongest in his clutch. But yeah, oh my god, so many. I need to pick up the threads of my fraying mind here. It's like, alright, so the scene with Vorgrath, right? Where I just went on a little tangent on how dare the main character be small and weak and pathetic and just lucky but fast and clever, right? The other thing, I kind of tuned out a bit. I was trying really hard to keep track of my thoughts. Did you mention Virio's spell?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
she
So
basically has like superpowered
yeah,
telekinesis.
so I don't know completely how I feel about the magic system in this book, but I really didn't like that particular part, right? The magic for most of the book seemed very willy-nilly. I'm gonna get to do whatever I want because I'm a celestial, fuck you, right? Every single problem that came up, she was able to fix with magic. She used magic to smear the ink on the note that would have embarrassed him. She used magic to widen the chimney so they could escape. She used magic to completely obliterate Vorgrath, right? It The magic was being used too much to fix issues that it started to take away from the story, I felt. And then it also doesn't feel like there's enough rules to the magic, and while there's nothing necessarily wrong with soft magic, I feel like soft magic can have its place, but used incorrectly, like it was here, it starts to detract from the world and the problems, and like nothing matters if I can just snap my fingers and fix it. People in the Discord are bringing up animus magic from Wings of Fire, and yes, animus magic is the worst thing that she's ever done, Tui, the author, and there's a reason why she tried to write it out of her universe. right? It was a terrible idea. Virial doesn't feel like she has any real cost. I know she says that she has to spend energy and whatnot, and it was a really interesting aspect that the way they explained the celestial magic was they're trying to essentially convince the universe to make things this way instead of the way it is, and the universe either says yeah, okay, or nah. It usually depends on how many witnesses there are or how drastic the change is, how believable it is. That, I feel, is really good and has potential to be a really good soft magic system. The problem is it didn't feel like she could ever run out of mana, to sum it up, right? The only time she ever, like, showed any negative effects from casting magic was the destroying Vorgrath scene. But, like, considering what she did to him, basically folded him into a singularity so he doesn't exist anymore. She did that without any training. It was nothing but heightened emotion at the time, like how dare you touch my guy, right? The fact that she did that so easily and with no training, and she's just an immature child still, kind of makes me think that the like full-grown celestials, like the Empress herself and maybe some other people that have specialized in magic, are just so unstoppable to the point where you can't do anything about it. Like, no wonder they're in charge. No wonder they are lording over all the other lesser dragons. Because with this magic, how do you stop that? How can you stand up against that? There's no weakness to it. If she
Yeah.
can do that as a child with no training and only be unconscious for like what, an hour?
No, it was a couple. It was a while. I mean, she was bleeding out of her nose and mouth, and she was completely unconscious,
Okay,
and
so
it required.
it was a few days, but it was bad enough for an hour ish to where Zaragus thought that she was gonna die. But
Yeah.
after a while, it's like, oh no, okay, she's stable. She's just gonna be unconscious for a while. So, sure, a few days for deleting somebody, that's fine. But again, I feel like that's not. I'm being distracted
deleting
by the Discord now.
deleting
Uh,
somebody.
yeah, it's like I feel like the power ceiling is too high with not enough cost, right?
Yeah. I do want to point out the little conversation I had with Ray before we started recording, where I told him in text, I was like, "Oh, Vorgrass's death was fucking amazing. Sick of all the let's talk about it bullshit. Fucking end him. Being crushed with magic was amazing." And then Ray says, "Well, I can agree with the circumstance of circumvention of friendship is magic aspect. I actually really hate that Virial has that level of magic." And so I said, "Well, does it matter? Doesn't matter that it seemingly took everything out of her instead of being anime OP?" And he says it makes it better. But yeah, as he said, she wasn't trained how to do it, and it's a lot of power to have.
Yeah, it's weird, and like here's the really weird double standard, right? Because if we just reverse the genders of every single character in this book, right? Suddenly I love it a lot better, right? Because it appeals to me and my gender and my vision of whatever, right? I acknowledge that's unfair and narrow-minded and whatnot, right? But for fantasy specifically, I think it's okay to play into that. But if it was if it was Zargus, let's say Zargus discovered magic, and oh my god, there's another fucking pin I need to go on. If Zargus discovered he had magic, and he deleted Voidgrath, he like started floating in the sky, and there's light or shadow because he's a Twilight Dragon, and he's like, and then he just fucking deletes Voidgrath to save Virial because at one point Vorgoth is fighting Virial, right? And he got angry, and this is where he discovered his acid breath, so there's an interesting little moment, but let's pretend he discovered magic and he deleted Vorgrath and suffered no repercussions. I would have thought that was amazing because of who it was attached to, right? And my thoughts are going everywhere. Oh my god. Zargus had nothing for so long that him getting that big burst of power would have been fine. This is a character who already has everything. She can already teleport. She can effectively mind control people. And you guys know I fucking hate mind control. I don't care if you explain it away with hormones. It's still fucking mind control. Right? The fact that when he loses his sense of smell, she like pulls his snout to her neck and says, "Really? Nothing?" He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And she's like, "That's gonna be a problem." It's like, fuck that. But absolutely fuck that. Oh my god. God forbid you can't mind control somebody. And that's also where like my theory of like they're gonna take down the Celestials because they found a way to stand up to them because if we just get rid of the sense of smell, they can't be controlled by the hormones. It's like, nope, they got deleting powers apparently.
Yep. Your entire army just became a flesh blob and then just
Mhm.
folded into a speck, and they're gone.
And the pin I just put in, Zargus getting magic. I really feel like the Twilight Dragon should have magic. They were described at some point as being the opposite of the Celestials. I think it was in the book he found. There was like the elemental chart of all the different dragons, Vermilions being fire, and something being water, something being ice. I can't remember them all. But they're like, this dragon is good to against this one, but weak to that one. There was a freaking weakness chart in this book. But the Celestials and the Twilights were not part of that circle. They were off to the side and being countermanded to each other, with Celestials and Twilights apparently being weak to each other, which I think is a very Skylandish thing. The elemental rule, but light and dark on the side.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, like Skylanders.
yeah. So because of that, if Celestials have that powerful magic, I feel like Twilight should also have that powerful magic, and they should be the ones who could stand up to Celestials. Again, this is me just going full tear it all down, Hunger Games, let's go. The Twilights discover magic, and they just rip down the Celestial Mountain, right?
I mean, it would have made a lot more sense for Zagreus to have a black hole ability. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what some of my other pins I wanted to rant about were?
No.
Oh my fucking god, they're everywhere. Just talk and I'll think of something.
Um, one of the other things I want to point out about the narrator is that he did really, really good voices. You know that I am primarily an audiobook person. Whenever Ray is like, "Oh, we're gonna read this book," and then I always ask, "Is there an audiobook version?" And when he says no, I groan and I realize that my life is over. Um,
I'll make sure
there's
to give you
actually
more physical books only.
yeah, there's actually a meme that the Discord had made, which I treasure. I love it so much. It's the scene with it's that one scene with the dude looking up in horror and everything's blue, and they wrote Bantam seeing all the books Ray recommends to him.
Uh,
And I love that meme because it's very much true. When I find out there isn't an audiobook, I kind of die a little inside. But there
we're
have
gonna
been
have to
audio.
branch out and do no audiobooks though.
Yeah, I understand that it's going to happen, but there are a couple books where the audio was like the audio book quality or the narrator was so bad. I can't remember what it was. I know it was when we were working at the grocery store, but the narrator sounded like an old man from like an old BBC show, and it was terrible. Like he would slur a couple times, like "Blah," and I'm like, what? And at the end of the book, he's like, I hope you enjoyed this book, and it's like, I really didn't because of you. A narrator to me can make or break a book. I overall think this narrator did a really good job, 8 out of 10. The only thing I would change is his inflection during conversation, or his inflection during narration where there isn't conversation happening. Yes, if a character is angry, absolutely raise your voice, yell into the microphone. But
Oh,
if you're
right.
but
Sorry, I just thought of one of my bips.
if you're describing a scene, please do not raise your voice. I want to feel what I want to feel in that moment, and I don't want to be. It to me, it's the same thing as having a big light that says "please clap," like studio audience shit. And it's like you yelling and getting faster and faster. That's the other thing. You were getting faster and faster. I don't feel like I wanted to be angry in that scene, or I didn't want to have an anxiety attack. But you were kind of forcing it because you were getting louder and faster.
Yeah. Again, the narrator did really good, except for the fact that he got a little too intense. And I remember saying chapter 17. I'm going to see if I can just find the paragraphs really fast. Chapter 17 is when he starts having his argument with Alara, and he actually starts to explain like his tragic backstory, right? She gets upset that he doesn't want to escape, and he explains why. And at some of these points, he's having them yell at each other, and it's like this would be much better if it wasn't yelling, but was much more like just teeth gritting, like you don't understand because I've had to deal with this my whole life and this and that. I'm trying to find, maybe I can read a paragraph. It's like this is how I would do it. But give me a second. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't take too long so I have to like delete a bunch of white space from the episode.
I mean, I know what scene you're talking about, so while you find that, I'll just give my thoughts. I thought that was fine. Again, at least to me, his volume never bothered me when there was conversation. There were a couple times where I feel like the character should have been seething instead of screaming. Like as you said, through gritted teeth. I thought that would have been uh, a better tone to take. But I was fine with him yelling in conversation. Zargrass finally snapped. He's been bottling everything up for the whole book, and it finally comes out. I'm okay with the yelling. What I'm not okay with is when the yelling is happening when they're describing what characters are doing. If two characters are fighting, don't start going. And then he dodged to the left, and then he dodged to the right, and then a fireball hit him, and it's like, dude, stop.
Yeah, the narrator for narration of actions needs to be very neutral. The only time I would say they don't have to be, and they could start inflecting stuff like you just given as an example, would be if it was first person. If it was a first person narrator with eyes and me's and stuff, then you can probably inflect a whole lot
Yeah,
more in the descriptive text because
yeah.
it's literally his point of view and it's his thoughts you're hearing.
Yeah, there. One of the notes that I wrote down for the narration specifically was that it kind of at times sounded like listening to a soccer game, where a player gets the ball and he's halfway down the pitch, and they're like,
Goal!
and he's got the, and he's and it's like, oh, okay, and then in like in soccer, he doesn't make the goal, and the ball gets into the other team's hand and goes the other way, and you're like, okay, well, all that build up was for nothing. Like, I get you're excited, but let me feel excitement on my own for having neutral audio.
I think to like not make a fool of myself, I could only like read these paragraphs in this is how I would do it if I were to like listen to the narrator again right now to guarantee that yes, he did in fact yell this when he shouldn't have. Because like what if I'm like, he should have just been growling this and it turns out that he was just growling and not actually yelling at this point. I would look like a fool.
I love the way I would look like a fool.
But yeah, the point is this chapter when he starts arguing with her and gets into like the admissions of this is what my life has been like. I actually got emotional there, and I think I may have actually like shed a tear or two if he wasn't yelling the whole time.
Speaking, are you still looking?
I think I'm gonna give up on looking.
No, you can
I'll
keep looking because
well
I got something
again.
else to bring up.
The point is I would need to re-listen to that chapter to figure out exactly at what point do I think this is yelling and should not be yelling.
Okay.
I should have like took a timestamp or highlighted it or something, but I was driving at the time and so I couldn't stop and do that. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
losing
get you.
track of it.
I did want to, because you mentioned shedding a tear there. I always like when a book makes me feel something. Um, so the whole plot of the book, whenever he gets kidnapped, well, they're on their way back and they end up stopping in the little cave that he originally got kidnapped from, and he's talking with Viriel, in her celestial whatever, finding out that she's celestial, and she hears someone coming, and it's Deccan, and as the listener, you understand that Zargras and Deccan are very close, and they can be trusted. Deccan can 100% be trusted, but Viriel doesn't know that, so she uses magic to essentially trap him in rock so that he can't be seen or whatever, and then Deccan comes in, and you find out that Deccan has basically not eaten. He has searched this cave. He has come to this cave every single day looking for the prince, and you realize that, like, as far as everyone in the Dawn Kingdom is concerned, he may have just run away from home. They don't know he's been kidnapped, so they think, maybe he'll come back on his own, and to find out that his teacher, mentor, and borderline father figure has been kind of starving himself and sick with worry, and the excitement he gets when he can smell Zargras, it kind of made me, I legitimately had to wipe my eye. I
Yeah.
really like that, and I honestly didn't think I was going to get a moment like that because, the typical things that make normal people cry, I just find nauseating and stupid. So, having two characters that are lovers finally meet again, and they're like, "Oh my god, I missed you." I don't really give a shit.
Yeah. Unfortunately, none of that scene mattered because she just mind controls Deccan into leaving. Bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I didn't really pick up on that until you had mentioned it, but yeah, it's like because Zargras mentions like Deccan absolutely would not have left right there. Like that didn't make any sense. And she's like, "Oh, I had to."
Yeah, and again, just the fact that she's like, you know what, stone. done. He's covered in stone, can't move, no fighting back to it, and like could have like actually just fucking killed him. Like they go out of Arthur goes out of his way to explain that she also removed some of the stone from his nose so he can breathe. But it's like the point is she suffered no consequences for that level
Yeah.
of magic that could have just completely, not literally, but effectively deleted somebody.
Yeah.
Never would have
She
found
could
him.
literally bury you in stone and you suffocate an agonizing death. And no one would ever know because you're in rock. You're going to become a fossil at that point. I should mention though, these are all powers I wish I had. I would only use them for evil.
I would only use my powers to serve myself.
Yeah, for evil. So I just said. Thing is that when I write my book, I take these. I kind of take what Ray says to heart. Whenever he has a complaint about something, I always kind of mentally file that away, and I go, when I write my book, blah blah blah. Which at this point is always going to be a giant asterisk in the horizon because like I do plug away at it. I think I'm at like 40 pages now, but I keep going back and going, wait, no, I want to change this up. I want to add more here. And I just don't have the mental structure to write a story. Like I keep telling myself that it would be easier to just write the whole story and then go back and punch it up, but I keep punching it up in the middle of writing it, and it's. But
I should
there,
sit down and write a story too, but I just keep getting demoralized by certain aspects of the process.
yeah,
Which is why I have such respect for anyone that does it. Every indie book that we've read, I always start the episode with you guys have written the book, you've done more than I ever could, and you should always feel proud. I really mean that, because writing a book is fucking hard. And if I start tearing your book apart because I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, or this was written weird, it's like, I'm sorry, I understand that I'm a very blunt kind of asshole that can't turn it off. Like, I've gone in trouble with it with other people, I can't turn it off. So I'm very sorry about that. But understand that I'm giving you the feedback and hoping that you can take it and make yourself better with it. I understand my delivery is a lot more harsh than it needs to be, but again,
you,
I'm sorry. I respect you, and the fact that I can get so heated over certain things should tell you that it's something that I care about a lot, and you've done a good job kind of tapping that.
yeah, yeah. The worst thing a book can do is make you feel nothing after you've read it. If we read a book and at the end of it Ray went, it was all right, and then we discussed the plot in very vanilla terms and went, yeah, well, see, read it if you want. That's probably the worst thing that can happen to a book
Mm.
is that it made the reader feel nothing. Even if the reader feels anger over certain decisions they would have made different from the author, that's good, because you made someone feel something. I'm a lot more passive. I'm the type of person to just read something and pick out the things that I really liked and the things I really didn't like. For the most part, I do enjoy. I would say 90% of the books we read, we have obviously read some stinkers, and it's hard. It's hard to be fair and objective when you know that potentially your words could hurt someone's feelings, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
ever want to really do that. We're letting you know what we thought, and there are people all over the world who will bow down and be like, this is the greatest book I ever read in the world, and then there's going to be people who didn't feel that
Look,
way.
there are some books that I've tried reading and I have put down because I couldn't finish it because I felt like it was so bad. I have read some actual really hot garbage off on the internet, right? And there are still people that love it. There are still people in the reviews saying that this was their favorite thing ever and most amazing, and they really loved character A and character B and whatnot. There's something for everybody out there.
Yeah,
So understand that if I don't like your piece, that's fine. It wasn't for me. When I said at the top of this episode, the first half, that this book is not for me. This is not a story for me. A lot of my complaints are because this is not a Ray kind of story. That's valid on my part, and that's valid on your part. You don't have to tell a story that is meant for me. And I'm trying to remain generally objective about a lot of the review stuff from the first half. But like this was a book that had females in control, and I don't like that. Females shouldn't be in control. They should be in. No. Just try to curb the sexist jokes. Everyone understand that I'm just joking. Oh my god.
yeah,
But it's like this book. There was a thought I had when I was reading this that would have come across as like really insulting. So I'm trying to figure out a nice way to word it. But this definitely feels like it was written by someone like the author. I'm sorry, author. It feels like you might really like the thought of a dominatrix. Like, you get off on the thought of the woman being in charge and telling you what to do. The fact that you wrote a scene in the first book where Tanae is quite literally stepping on, I can't remember his name, the brother's snout, and like being kind of not yelling, but like very angrily, very sternly putting him in his place, and he gets hard, right? You wrote that in there, so I know what you like. Okay, I know the kind of person you are.
The
I know
writer's
that
barely
you
disguised fetish.
literally, and the fact that because of that, he's written a world where the females are all in charge and the males are nothing, and every single male character is, oh no, please don't hurt me, right? And they have to get lucky and they have to get saved by the female character. It's like, I know what he likes, and there are other people out there that do like it, and that's fine. And that's what I mean by this isn't a book for me. I respond much better to large masculine characters that are like very powerful and very strong, and they can just kind of breeze through everything. Like I said earlier, Nico Sandumas. Vancure the Dragon is another one. That book itself was a little too satirical for me, but I really enjoyed the character. I also like in anime. I enjoy animes where the main character is pretty much unstoppable. I like Overlord for that reason. I liked That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime for a very similar reason. It has its own share of problems, but whatever. The point is I respond to that kind of story, which is what I mean when I say this is not a race story, so please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt.
Or a whole shaker.
The entire salt shaker and the lid just comes off.
I will also mention that if you go back through our old episodes, there's very, very, very few books, I think maybe only like 2 or 3, where I suggested that people just avoid it. For the most part, we give our objective opinion, what we personally felt while reading the book, and then we say, hey, if that sounds like it's for you, go for it. I don't think this podcast was ever set up with the intent to tell people don't read this book. Even the really bad books, we've had fun making fun of them, and then we just drop it. But I actually really like this book. I skipped over the sex scenes. I do that in everything. I legitimately, watching movies in theaters is sometimes hard for me because I feel like the movie's moving slow, or I can sense a slow scene coming up, and I'm like, ugh, get back to the action. It's one of the reasons why my own little brand of autism, I guess, is I really like rewatching old movies. There's a familiarity. I know what's going to happen. And more importantly, I know where to skip. I really, really love Jason Statham movies, but every single one of them have a sex scene. And I skip it every single time.
I think semi-recently Bantam rewatched Iron Man or Avengers or something, or some Marvel movie.
Well, all
but
of
the thing is, you did it, a single movie you did in like 20 minutes, because you would watch a scene, skip ahead, like click, 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 watch a scene, skip ahead, click, 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 click. And it's like, I was there, because I like to just lay on his bed and just like vibe, because the dogs are able to go in there and whatever. And I was watching him do this, and I was like, are you even watching this thing? He's like, yeah, I'm getting it.
Yeah, the thing is that when I'm at work, I'm very bored a lot, and so I watch YouTube Shorts, and a lot of times like scenes from movies will pop up, and I'm like, I remember that movie, and then I go home and I watch it, and by watch it, Ray is 100% correct. I watch a 2-hour-long movie in 20 minutes. I watch a scene, click, 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 watch another scene, click, 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 watch the scene. I'm like, yeah, I remember most of the movie now, and then I close it. So yeah, I skipped all the sex scenes. I would skip ahead maybe 20, 30 minutes, hear the word member pop up, and then skip ahead another, 30 minutes, and then hear the word shaft and skip ahead. And then as soon as
since you skipped through them, I will just say that for a straight sex scene, they were really well done. Like, it was fine. There was no.
They were really dirty.
There were no boobs breasting boobily.
I did listen to the entire masturbation scene. So when he's first coming of age, he gets hard in the middle of the night and he starts jerking off for the first time. I did listen to that one the whole way through, and I was like, wow, he is really getting into it. Not the author, but the character. And like, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna go for round 2. And then he's a sticky, awful mess. And then Decken comes in and is like, let's get you cleaned up. And he's like all embarrassed. He's covered in his own seed. And he's like, oh.
God, the part where Decken is like I could bring you to the barracks and we could have some of the guys help you out. And I was like, yes, please. Oh,
yeah,
my God.
I remember Ray called that out.
I remember in the first book, I was very upset. I remember I haven't listened to the episode, but I remember in the episode being all like, oh, I wish they would have just like acknowledged gay sex. Like, this is a underground den of nothing but guys. Surely they fooled around with each other. Like, just at least like give me like a tease, right? It's like, you know what? He took that to heart. He gave me a tease. There's the tease of gay sex. Like, are you sure? No one knows how to handle a tool better than a male or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I did
there
love
we
that. I
there we go. I got
out
my
of
tease. Thank you. Now just give me actual gay dragon sex.
out of every character in this entire book, Decken was my favorite.
Decken was my favorite, and he is the kind of character that I want to be the main character, right?
He looked prettier than the prince. The voice the narrator gave him. Holy shit!
Mm.
I want to
Like,
bottle that voice.
like at the beginning of the book, like chapter 2, chapter 3, I was all like, oh my god, please have the prince get with Decken, please have them get together, please, please, please. Like, that would have been beautiful. I would have been so happy.
I think that
What
would
we
have
what we
ruined Decken
need.
for me.
No, it would have been great. I love mentor mentee settings, but whatever. Anyway, at one point, Bantam had kind of made a joke while we were in the car talking about the book a little bit. It's like, could you imagine if we go on to like the third book, and it's like in the jungle, and the princess is like, "Look at me, I'm just a servant Drake. I'm here to collect your seed." And he's like, "No, thank you, I'm gay." And so she's like, "Oh," and then leaves and comes back as a guy Drake, like, "Hey."
Yeah, I remember that. Well, because the conversation started because we were like, I really, for the love of God, hope that he's not going to write 6 more books from the perspective of, like, not that I was going to be upset at him making 6 more books, but that I'd have to endure a green-eyed Drake showing up and being like, "Oh, I'm your servant," and it's like, "Oh, gee, I wonder who the fuck you are." Like, as a reader who's going from book to book, it's like, oh, the moment a character with green eyes is called out specifically for having green eyes, it's like, oh, it's the fucking princess, and it's like, for you, the reader, there's no surprise there.
Yeah, I
So,
really do appreciate the fact that he kind of dropped the facade in this book relatively early. Because, like, in the first book, it was sneaky, it was clever, and it was like, by the end, I remember in the episode, I was like, you know what? I think Virial was Liliar, right? And you were like, oh my god, you're right, Ray. And it's like, we figured it out. Like, it was
yep.
cool. It was a fun little, like, mystery in the first book, and to go through the whole thing in the second book would have been tedious, and it was a little bit.
Well, here's the thing, because I remember mentioning this to you. I thought maybe it might not be. It might just be a Drake with green eyes this time, because her personality had changed, and she, but I mean, it ultimately ended up being her. But
Mm,
you can pull that trick a second time, because you're like, surely they wouldn't do it again, and then you're like, oh shit, they did it again. What a surprise! And it's actually a surprise, not sarcastic. But you cannot do it a third time, because the moment you mention a character with green eyes, now the reader is looking for it. So dropping the facade was perfect, and the third book taking place from her perspective will be great, because at that point you're not going to trick the viewer, and at that point you're just watching a dragon get fooled over and over.
yeah.
Um,
I
but
remember one of the things that made me very, very upset about it in the whole, the main character has no agency. He's not really the main character. That whole PTSD epiphany, right? It's so fucking obvious. She fucking casts magic literally in front of him, and he still can't figure it out. She has to come out and be like, hey, I'm the princess. Look, I'm gonna take my true form, cue Sailor Moon transformation sequence. And he's all like, I knew it. And it's like, no, if you knew it, you would have figured it out sooner. It would have been much more satisfying if earlier on in the book, he actually figured, his whole thing. He's clever. That's the whole. They drill that into your head over and over and over. Zargus is clever. He's clever. He beats, fucking what's the guy's name? Vorgrath. He beats Vorgrath because he's clever, and he studies and he reads book, and he's clever. But you know what? Have him figure it out. It's like, you know what? I think you might be the Celestial Princess, because we know you have magic. You probably shapeshifted. Green eyes. Drakes literally cannot have green eyes.
so
And I've seen you cast magic, and this explains the weird glow before the paper was smeared and all that. It's like, it would have been so much more satisfying if he actually figured it out. But no, he can't do anything for himself. She has to tell him.
I was about to defend and like counterpoint you, But then I remembered the celestial quill, and the magic and the green eyes. Specifically, the celestial quill when it gets destroyed by the evil queen, and
She's like, "Oh, I'll get you another one."
I'll get you another one. And it's like, wait, how are you just gonna get your hands on a fucking celestial quill?
There were
And
so many hints
so
that
many
at the
clues that
beginning
he
were
couldn't
only
figure out.
only clues for us because we knew what we were looking for. But the clues got heavier and heavier and heavier to where it became infuriating that he couldn't figure it out. It's like, come on, my guy, you're supposed to be the smart one.
I want to point out something that Stream said in our Discord, that he was so stressed out with everything going on that he couldn't afford to properly mull over things. I buy that. You know what? Ray might
I
disagree.
don't.
I
I
do.
don't. He had so yes, he was stressed, but he had so much alone time that his mind was wandering. He's figuring out other stuff. Like he fucking got a book on dragon anatomy and was starting to read on the weaknesses of all of the other different kingdoms. It's like, nah, he was coping pretty surprisingly well under the pressure for a good 90% of his imprisonment.
Stream also brought up that he does have anxiety issues, that his mother did have to teach him breathing exercises. So I believe it even more, and I'm firmly on that side. Sorry, Ray.
Yeah, you can be on that side if you want.
As far as Bantam is concerned, I am okay with him not having figured it out because of the evidence that was provided.
It might be semi-realistic that he didn't figure out. I argue that it could go either way, right? I don't think anxiety makes you completely ignore the fact that the magic spell was cast literally in front of you, right? There is a limit to plausibility or plausible deniability or whatever the fucking term is, right? But
Yeah.
regardless of how realistic it is that he didn't figure it out, I'm saying it would have been much more satisfying if he did.
Oh yeah, no, that 100%, 100%. If he had figured it out on his own, it'd be like, yeah, okay. He did put his points into smarts. Well,
Oh boy.
Stream says he did connect the dots after the reveal. That's not really like,
After the view, that doesn't
yeah, after
count.
the reveal, it doesn't really count. If it's revealed to you, you can't be like, oh shit. No, it's like
I
the
I
oh
actually
shit should
figured
have
it
come
out.
before it was revealed.
Yeah, yeah. Stream sadly was not here for my rant on how Zygus doesn't get to do anything for himself, but he'll get that when he listens to the raw file later, and he'll cry. It's
But
his
yeah,
apparently it's his favorite book, so I'm very sad to be attacking it, and he's gonna have to just sit there and weather the brunt of the assault. But
I
hey,
will say that it is this series is in my top 5, and considering what, like 80 goddamn books I've had to read, it's pretty good.
it's a
Uh,
really weird love hate for me. Like again, I love the world building, even if it's just Bionicle. I love the world building and all that, but just the way it's handled, again, it's not for me. It's not a story written for me, and that's okay. But because of that, I can't put it in my top 5. Also, why do you make the main character hate baths? Why do you hate guys so much that you just have to make them actually basement dwelling redditors?
Trusinic says, "Musky boy."
Ugh,
Oh man.
I'm trying to gather my thoughts for anything that I didn't cover that I wanted to scream about. Oh, it felt a little weird that they could be hurt by their own acid, like not literally their own, but like the fact that his sister could actually scar him with acid. I guess I'm just too used to D&D where they're immune
Yeah.
to their own with weapons, but it's like I figure if you can house this acid inside your body, then you should also be kind of resistant to it.
Well, I actually appreciate it for being what it is, which is, I mean, yes, there's probably a sac, or your stomach has like an extra thick lining that can withstand the acid, and the fact that your saliva coats your mouth so that you can project it. But I mean, it's acid. It's like if they were completely immune to their own thing, then that's magic. As you said, I think it would be far too D&D-ish or far too Pokemon-ish for them to be immune to their own attacks. I think the fire dragon should absolutely die to fire. Uh, you know,
Maybe, but in a world that's supposed to have certain magical abilities and stuff, I don't know.
well,
It
because
just felt
like
weird.
I hate the concept of dragons like taking baths in lava.
I
I
love
think
that
that's
though. I
I
love
think
it so
that's the
much.
stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It
Nope, it's the
happens in
greatest.
Monster Hunter too, and it's like you can't, no, you have exposed skin between your fucking rocks, Gravios. There's no way in fucking hell that the soft parts of your fucking foot can resist
Nope.
lava.
Uh-uh.
I just don't agree with it.
Nope,
So
nope. Sorry, dragon lava bets are the greatest thing ever, and I'm gonna fight you on this hill forever.
oh, I will fucking bring it, bitch.
Dang it! I'm gonna toss you into lava.
Well, I'll die because that's what
Good,
should
I win.
happen when you go
Thank you.
to lava.
Uh, I remember one of my pins was I was very upset with the character of Vorgrass. All right, like he was a good asshole, right? Every book needs an asshole for you to hate. That's fine. When we got to the point where he was ordered to break Zargus's wings because his mother's being unreasonable and just a stupid bitch in general, it's like at this point I felt like it was a great opportunity to kind of turn Vorgas's character around, right? As much as I hate redemption arcs, it could have been a great redemption arc. But, like, even if he breaks the wing because he has to, because his mother's right there, he should have, like come by and apologized. Or, you know what would have been better than Virial helping him escape? Vorgrass helping him escape. He realized, like, hey, his mother might be a little crazy. I'm gonna help get you out of here because what she just made me do was fucking bonkers, right? And it's like, nope. He just continues being the asshole. He gets worse. He kills Zargus's mom, and then they try to play it off at the very end with like, you broke my wings. It's like, and I felt bad about it. It's like, yeah, bullshit. You don't get to feel bad about it at the very end. It's like, it was a great time that he could have like grown as a character, but no, the guy is not allowed to grow his characters ever. Vorgrass' butt won't fit in the vent. Didn't have to fit in the vent. He could have just walked out the front door.
Yeah, if Vorgris had a change of heart and decided, hey, I'm not gonna break this dude's wings, he could have walked him out and just explained to the guards we're going training. Oh, don't worry, he's in my charge, and then could have come with him to the and then testified against the queen. And I will say that although it was an epic spectacle, the two queens fighting to the death, I'm actually really sad that the mom died. Um, like just like Zargris, I feel like his mom was kind of a kick puppy. I mean, she's addicted to drugs and getting fucked by a dragon from another kingdom.
I feel like a lot of her problems were self-inflicted, so I feel like she had to be taken out for the good of the kingdom.
Yeah, I think that in that situation, if the good queen had killed the evil queen, and the two Dusk and Dawn kingdoms were more united at that point, where maybe dial up the evil of the other one, then I believe maybe she could have, with everything that had happened, kind of snap out of it and be like, all right, I need to be responsible. I need to rebuild my kingdom. It's crumbling around me. We need unity. We need strength. I think she could have been redeemed. I mean, I'm also a sucker for mom dad shit, raised by a single mom and never having a dad. So mom stuff really gets to me, and so does dad stuff.
Yeah. We might. I'm wondering if we should do a bonus episode where we have Stream on here and we just argue with him, because he's arguing with me in the Discord and it's like, look, buddy, listen. So he says, you're saying Vorgrass wouldn't get brutally punished by Sereth. He has to comply. And it's like, yeah, you know what? If Sereth is crazy enough to actually do something super terrible, super serious to her son that she apparently loves and wants to become the chosen prince, then that's something about her character. You know what? She's got to get taken out. I explained earlier how there was a time at the end of the book where Zargus could have become king, the first king of all the dragons, because matriarchy suck, right? And it's like, if we're gonna just follow that plot thread, that to the end where he does become king of the Dawn Palace, it's like, why couldn't Vorgrass become king of the Dusk Palace? You know what? He realizes his mom is crazy, helps Zargus escape. Maybe he doesn't go back home to Sereth. Maybe he goes with Zargus back to his mom, back to the Dawn Palace. And then when the two queens clash and whatever, then Vorgrass can become king of the Dusk Palace, and that's the start of the alliances between those two, who bonded over crazy mothers, I guess.
All right, Ray, let's do it. Not right now, because we
No,
need to give Stream.
we need to let him listen to the stuff that's happened,
Yeah.
and then we need to. I only have so many upload hours a month anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll at some point figure out a time to guest star Stream, the moderator for our Discord.
I look forward to it.
It'll be
All right.
interesting because I tend to slip into devil's advocate so easily that I might just start like pushing his buttons for the fun of it. But yeah, that's most of my problems with the book. That I feel like there was like something I was like, put a pin in that for later, and I forgot the pin. So it'll probably come screaming back to me later, and I'm gonna have to actually like just keep a list.
Just keep a
I
list.
need to
Write
gather
down those
ammo to
notes.
attack stream with.
Yeah, and then
Um,
we can bring it up like after we have our little friendly
yeah.
debate. Then we can bring up little extra points.
Yep. So I guess thank you for joining us, everybody. The week delayed part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you still like my tangents. I'm pretty sure most of you are here just for my tangents because I'm so good at them.
That used to be my thing.
I know, right? We both have tangents. Mine are fueled by anger. Yours are fueled by wanderlust.
Wanderlust, yeah.
Yep.
Mine are I have a point A and a point B, but in order for me to get there, I have to go elsewhere, and then it turns into this giant spider web of bullshit, and I need Ray to rein me back in.
But yeah, so thank you for joining us. Our schedule for the next month or so is a little wonky. We still want to try to do a commentary track for a movie. So we're going to try to figure out a time to do that and the best way to upload it. It'll either be YouTube or it'll just be like a file on our Discord. It kind of, because, that would be a lot to upload to the podcast.
It can't be YouTube. I need more subscribers on the YouTube channel for us to be able to upload anything longer than, I think it's 20 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. YouTube
Wow.
limits how big of a video you're able to upload based on your subscriber count and your views.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, and we'll figure it out. Point is, we're probably going to try and do that. So we probably won't do another book for a little bit because we're going to try to do a commentary track for a movie just to see how fun that is and how that works out. We also have DM Gilmore wants to give us an advanced reader copy for his new series also. But he's a little unsure when it'll be done exactly. He's got to go through some final editing passes. So that could be within a month, within 2 months or so. But if I have to force Bantam to read another book before then, I'm thinking I might make him read something terrible on purpose.
I'm you know what? If I go into it knowing that the book is terrible on purpose, that would actually make me excited to read the book because it's a win-win for me. Either it's bad and we can laugh about it, or I actually like it and then I can defend it from you.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know what? Okay, so in honor of Valentine's Day being 2 weeks ago, and we just did an erotic book, and before that we did the best dragon shifter book I've ever read. Let's do the absolute worst dragon shifter erotic book that I've ever read.
Okay, I'm down.
It is gay, it's male, and like I said, it's dragon shifter. I actually really like the magic system in it, but that's its only saving grace. The book series, I read 4 out of the 5 of them, I think, makes me so angry at various points. So yeah, we're gonna do that. The series is called Scales and Spells. Scales and Spells. Let me figure out who the author is and the actual first book. Alright, so Scales and Spells, Book 1, Origin, by A.J. Sherwood. Alright, so that's what we'll do next. When it comes out, I'm a little unsure, again, because we want to try to do a video thing, but just whenever that happens is when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Alright, so once again, thank you for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
All right, bye everybody.